on the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio!
Good evening and welcome to the Allen Institute. Hold on one second. Okay, good evening. My name is Frank Allen with the Allen Institute for Human Rights and Targeted Massachusetts. Tonight, part 2 of U.S. electromagnetic weapons and human rights, and a review of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, signed by the United States in 1947. This is a live broadcast from Boston, Massachusetts, on Revolution Radio. If you would like to talk to me directly during this broadcast, or ask a question, or join our discussion, I will always stop for a phone call. And the number is 347-905-5581. And we have some different ways to listen. You can go to https://freedomslips.com, then to Studio B Direct, and you will hear us. Revolution Radio also has its own chat. Be courteous to others. You can also go to www.talkstreamlive.com. Then go up to the search bar and type in the Allen Institute. Try the phone number listed. If that does not work, go to free conference call for Targeted Massachusetts. Dial in 515-604-9715. Enter the access code 708922. We are streaming to FCC out of necessity, as there are no call-in numbers posted, and I'm sure that will happen before too long. I just wanted to dump that phone line so I don't get interrupted again. To receive our newsletter, please go to targetedmassachusetts.org. You will immediately see a drop-down menu. There, you can insert your email address, hit submit, then you will automatically receive our newsletter. Tonight, we are going to get further into the United States and electromagnetic weapons. They say that they don't exist. but we have some U.S. diplomats from Cuba who would swear that they do. So I'm going to start out a couple of paragraphs ahead of my notes for the evening so that we can pick up some slack in it. I'm going to start out with illegal experimentation. MKUltra was neither the first nor the last project funded by the government or industry to experiment on people in the name of some greater good. A quick review of the history of secret experimentation and medical atrocities reveals a pattern of deadly behavior. The Tuskegee experiments in 1932 cruelly condemned scores of black men to death from syphilis. The Pellagra incident, in which millions died over 2 decades, in spite of the fact that the U.S. Public Health Service knew at the time that these deaths were caused by little more than a niacin deficiency. In 1940, scientists exposed 400 prisoners in Chicago with malaria, a U.S. experiment Nazis cited at the Nuremberg trials to defend their own experimentation. During World War II, Seventh-day Adventist conscientious objectors were enlisted into Operation Whitecoat by the U.S. Army and the Adventist Church. They were told that they were being tested for defensive research purposes, while the government was in fact testing offensive chemical and biological weaponry. After World War II, matters became far worse for those who were caught up in the web of illegal scientific testing. In 1947, Colonel E. Kirkpatrick of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission issued a secret document stating that the agency would begin administering intravenous doses of radioactive substances to human subjects. Now, you all remember the atomic testing that was going on in Utah, Nevada. Well, these areas had people living in them. And these residents of Utah and Nevada were purposely exposed to radioactive fallout. There were also a series of operations during the 1940s and 1950s in which U.S. cities were attacked secretly by the military through the spread of biological agents in order to track their propagation through a real population. Now, this brings home the crisis that we endure today. We have a virus that is propagating the United States. It seems like once every 2 weeks, we are faced with a stronger strain. Some of us believe that this COVID-19 exists. Others do not. Today we had the emergence of the first lawsuit against mandatory vaccination that is hot off the presses. To get back to our review, we will go over some of the scientists that were involved back then and what became of them and how their research, so-called, influenced America. Dr. Ewan Cameron. Once the details of MKUltra came to light, the focus in the media and in the Senate was on the use of drugs, especially LSD, while the researchers within the project did indeed concentrate on developing a variety of hallucinogenic concoctions, and they did so with an end in mind. The goal was to devise means and methods of enabling undercover operatives, soldiers, contractors, or anyone who was involved in secret projects to be able to keep those projects if they were captured or interrogated. Hypnosis combined with drugs, sensory deprivation, and systematic abuse were seen as a means to that end. The leader in this pharmaceutical and psychological research was Dr. Ewan Cameron. Cameron was at the time one of the most esteemed psychiatrists in the world at that time. As president of the American Psychiatric Association, Canadian Psychiatric Association, and one of the founders of the World Psychiatric Association, Dr. Ewan Cameron began experimenting on brainwashing techniques as early as the 1930s with schizophrenic patients. At this time, lobotomies were not yet in common use, though the procedure would begin to be implemented in 1936 on a wide scale. Electroshock therapy was some years from being accepted as a primary means of changing behavior. Ewan Cameron relied on tortuous and highly stressful techniques for breaking down the personality of his patients. Schizophrenics would be stripped down naked beneath red lights for 8 hours a day, sometimes for up to 8 months, with repeated messages inundating their senses. In other experiments, Cameron would attempt to induce the delirium associated with a high fever by cooking his patients in an electric cage until their body temperature reached 102 degrees. From January of 1957 until September of 1960, Cameron became one of the promising researchers the CIA turned to in order to develop means and methods of brainwashing and programming human beings to do the will of the agency. Cameron received $64,000 $242.44 from the CIA to develop a combination of techniques that would destroy an individual's memory of any event and enable the programmer to control their behavior through post-hypnotic commands. Cameron used a variety of drug combinations coupled with prolonged sleep deprivation, isolation, hypnosis, and electroconvulsive therapy in order to wipe an individual's memory. His techniques worked to a certain extent, but ethical considerations led the CIA to cut Cameron's funding in the United States, prompting Cameron to move to Canada and continue his work with funding channeled through the Canadian government. So the CIA never really let go of him. They just changed the way they accessed him. He continued his work officially from 1961 until 1964 in Montreal, where he received an additional $57,000. During this time, Ewan Cameron combined his techniques in a therapy he called deep patterning with electroconvulsive therapy, in which the voltage introduced into one subject's brain, and her name is Linda McDonald, exceeded the APA's guidelines by 76.5 times. He succeeded in wiping her memory, and to this day, she cannot remember anything prior to 1963. In a January 17, 1984 broadcast of the Canadian Broadcasting System, a program called The Fifth Estate detailed the experiments of Cameron, prompting a burst of investigative journalism, culminating in a class action suit brought against the CIA by former subjects. In 1988, the case was settled out of court for $750,000, divided between 8 plaintiffs. Linda McDonald received $100,000 plus legal fees from the Canadian government. But Cameron himself faced no charges, no punishment. Sometimes within our community, Jose Delgado is considered some kind of hero. I've heard it, I couldn't believe it, but he is far from a hero. Whereas Cameron focused on creating traumatized individuals through intense psychological pressure, Dr. Jose Delgado was investigating the direct route to control of human subjects. Delgado physically invaded the brains of subjects with electrodes in order to create emotions and control actions with the push of a button. As he stated himself, we need a program of psychosurgery for political control of our society. The purpose is physical control of the mind. Everyone who deviates from the given norm can be surgically mutilated. The individual may think that the most important reality is his own existence, for example. But this is only his personal point of view. This lacks historical perspective. Man does not have the right to develop his own mind. This kind of liberal orientation has great appeal. He goes on to say, we must electrically control the brain. Someday armies and generals will be controlled by electric stimulation of the brain. In his paper, Intracerebral Radio Stimulation and Recording in Completely Free Patients, Delgado observed that radio stimulation on different points in the amygdala and hippocampus in the 4 patients produced a variety of effects, including pleasant sensations, elation, deep, thoughtful concentration, odd feelings, super relaxation, which is an essential precursor for deep hypnosis. Also, colored visions and other responses. Delgado, to his credit, did make great strides toward a better understanding of the physiology of brain structures and their attendant behavioral and emotional correlates. Strides that did not go unnoticed by the intelligence community and the military. While Delgado worked in an area of specific interest, the direct stimulation of brain structures through implanted electronics, other researchers explored means of creating multiple personalities and programming the alternate personalities that emerged to do a variety of intelligence-related work. As operatives, still others explored the effects of various drug combinations and other programming and interrogation techniques, all of which aimed at creating super spies and breaking down enemy agents. The exposure of Watergate, MKUltra, and COINTELPRO is a very interesting story because it's with the break-in of Watergate that many of these things were discovered. According to testimony by Senator Edward Kennedy in 1977, the Senate Health Subcommittee heard chilling testimony about the human experimentation activities of the Central Intelligence Agency. The Deputy Director of the CIA revealed that over 30 universities and institutions were involved in an extensive testing and experimentation program, which included covert drug tests on unwitting citizens at all social levels, high and low. Native Americans. Several of these tests involved the administration of LSD to unwitting subjects in social situations. The CIA drugged American citizens without their knowledge or consent. Okay, folks, we have to go to commercial. Thank you for listening.
We'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hey everyone, it's Barbara Jean Lindsay, the Cosmic Oracle. If you have questions about your past lives or future plans, need answers from the cosmos about your love life or career, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the planet, check out my show, The Cosmic Oracle, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain. As free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to flip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because freedom is slipping away.
Good evening. Welcome back. My name is Frank Allen with the Allen Institute. This is a live broadcast from Boston, Massachusetts on Revolution Radio. Don't hesitate people to call me directly if you want to ask a question or get involved. Just pick up the phone and call 347-905-5581. Again, that is 347-905-5581. We have some different ways to listen here until the station gets squared away, because they have just gone under a major evolution with the new servers, and they're really getting it together. So for now, you can go to freedomslips.com, then to Studio B Direct, and Revolution Radio always has its own chat. Be courteous to others. Another way is TalkStream Live, and that's www.talkstreamlive.com. Then go up to the search bar and type in the Allen Institute. Try the phone number listed, which is 716-748-0112, or if you're there by computer, which you are, try the feed. It works. When all else fails, if you are on your phone, go to Free Conference Call for targeted Massachusetts. You can dial in 515-604-9715. Then enter the access code 708-922. We are streaming to Free Conference Call out of necessity, as there are no call-in numbers posted. We expect them to come soon. To receive our newsletter, please go to targetedmassachusetts.org. You will see a drop-down menu. There you can insert your email address, hit the submit button, and then you will automatically receive our newsletter. It's quite long and packed, and I'm sure that you will enjoy it. Right now, we're going to get back to our subject, which is the United States and electromagnetic weapons. So the Central Intelligence Agency drugged American citizens without their knowledge or consent. It used university facilities and personnel without their knowledge. So you could have been a college student. You could have been working, just doing the floors or cleaning up. But they would grab you one way or another. That good old fruit punch. As an example of the hubris wrought by the institutions veiled in secrecy, they're given the unlimited funds and staffed with amoral people. We can only refer to the statement made by George White in a letter to MKUltra director Sidney Gottlieb. I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun. It was really fun. Where else could an American boy lie, cheat, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest? After Watergate, more information hit the papers. COINTELPRO was uncovered by a group of people who have never been apprehended, in spite of a 6-year FBI investigation. The COINTELPRO program was secret until 1971, when an FBI field office was burglarized by a group calling themselves the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI. These people broke into an FBI office in Pennsylvania. They rifled through the filing cabinets and leaked to the press documents detailing the abuses suffered by a wide variety of activists, including a long-term plan to destroy Martin Luther King Jr. Agents tapped his phone. Agents bugged his rooms, trumpeted his supposed commie connections, and his sexual proclivities, and sicked the Internal Revenue Service on him. When it was announced in 1964 that Dr. King would receive a Nobel Peace Prize, the FBI grew desperate, hoping to prevent King from accepting the award. The Bureau mailed him a package containing a tape of phone calls documenting King's extramarital affairs and an anonymous threatening letter. In barely concealed language, King was told to commit suicide before the award ceremony or risk seeing his filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self exposed to the nation. Fortunately, Dr. King ignored the FBI's advice. He accepted the award and lived 4 more years until his assassination. Some of the largest COINTELPRO campaigns targeted the Socialist Workers' Party, the Ku Klux Klan, the New Left, including anti-war groups such as the Students for a Democratic Society and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Black liberation groups such as the Black Panthers and the Republic of New Africa. Puerto Rican independence groups, the American Indian Movement, and the Weather Underground. Director Hoover declared that the centralized COINTELPRO was finished, over, done with, and that all future counterintelligence operations would be handled on a case-by-case basis. MKUltra was the basis for what is happening today. And it's based in hypnotism. Hypnotism is the root. I hear so many comments about voice-to-skull engagements where basic hypnotic commands are mentioned. In addition, MKUltra documents were released to the press, and book after book were written about the subject. Most of them, and the most notable, were The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, which we are all familiar with, Bluebird by Colin A. Ross, MD, and A Nation Betrayed by Carol Roots. At this point, victims began to come forward with claims of being horribly abused in these programs. One of the most famous is a woman named Candy Jones, who described in stunning detail a tale of corruption and abuse. When Jimmy Carter became president in 1976, he promptly moved to introduce a modicum of control. He instituted the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, establishing an 11-member secret court to oversee the surveillance activities of our covert agencies. Today, we need transparency in our government. We send trillions of dollars to the government. I think it's about time that we saw how it was spent. Billions of dollars go into these black projects, and we don't know about it, and they are used on us. As an example of the limited reporting requirements for this new 11-person court, we have the first report issued to Vice President Mondale. It said basically nothing. The report is submitted pursuant to Section 107 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. During a calendar year, 1979, applications were made for orders and extensions of orders approving electronic surveillance under this act. The United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court issued 207 orders granting authority for the requested electronic surveillances. No orders were entered which modified or denied the requested authority. Pointedly, Carter's reform measure did not do anything to ensure that American public would be protected in the future from abuse and testing at the hands of the intelligence arm of the military. Now we have DARPA, which today has a blank check. They spend billions of dollars on researching the brain. And they use veterans of America who have lost limbs to gain this knowledge. So they create these atrocities that are used on the public by perfecting them on our veterans. Right now, one veteran sits in front of his television set and changes the channels with his mind. Fact. Look it up. This is where things start to get hairy, because all of this stuff is happening, and all of it's true, and all of it will eventually destroy the country, unless we band together to stop it. It must be stopped. It has to be stopped. Right now in the United States, everyone either has somebody in their family, knows a family that does, has a friend who in fact is a government target or a targeted individual. Admiral Stanfield Turner, after he took over as director of CIA, rogue agents were let go. And they just found work in the CIA storefronts that are everywhere. I don't think you can walk down one street without running headlong into a CIA front. That's how they learn. They have to know what's going on. The more crooked you are, the more you have to learn what's going on. The two major commissions investigating Rockefeller and Church revealed a long pattern of developing new psychological, pharmaceutical, and radiological technologies to influence individuals and groups, and long-standing pattern of behavior whereby politically disruptive citizens were systematically targeted. They were harassed and destroyed. Yet, there have to date been no provisions instituted which would stop this behavior. Okay, I just saw a call come in, but I missed it. Now, these patterns of behavior are common in the United States. These patterns, these mindsets, are the minds of people who want to get ahead in life. They are the minds of people who have gotten ahead in life. And these people do not deserve to spend the rest of their lives under the thumb of a technology that they cannot see. There have been people that have asked me, how is a good way to explain this technology to the layman? And I tell them, it's like having an iPhone dropped into your head, because there is two-way communication. It follows you wherever you go. It can't be stopped at this point in time, but we're working on it. It's something that is hideous to mankind. There have been no provisions instituted which would stop this behavior. Now, I'm going from my notes to present day. There have been laws in Massachusetts. There have been laws in Michigan and California. In California, there is one that is particularly interesting, which prohibits the use of satellite technology on human beings. But here, we have no provisions instituted which would stop this behavior, nor is there any guarantee that these kinds of covert programs ever actually ceased, meaning MKUltra in 1973. The only practical change engendered by the disclosures of the 70s was to drive these kinds of operation further into the shadows, still getting their government funding, all of them still receiving their paychecks. And with the advent of the corporation, quite some time ago, years and years ago, we have the military-industrial complex, which is sick. We have corporations like Lockheed Martin, for one, that build satellites. They'll build anything for you, as long as you cut them a check. So this research and experimentation may still be occurring. Well, guess what it is? And it's evidenced by DoD directive issued by the Secretary of the Navy on November 6, 2006, that specifically requires prior approval of the Undersecretary of the Navy before conducting severe or unusual intrusions, either physical or psychological, on human subjects, such as consciousness-altering drugs or mind control techniques. There is a long history that illustrates U.S. intelligence operations, and they've all had tragic results for the many involved. And that's why we have started out at the very beginning with the last show. And we will work our way all the way to the present day, and every once in a while we'll reflect back to the origin of it. There was no public debate surrounding these black operations because they were classified under the guises of national security. MKUltra, Project Pandora, plutonium testing, and many more projects conducted by the DoD and the CIA were exposed by committees led by Senators Rockefeller and Church in the 70s. However, tighter restrictions on human experimentation, including accountability and transparency, did not occur until 1997, when President Clinton instituted revised protocols on human experimentation. Official reports insist that the research involving experiments during the 50s through the 70s was destroyed. Yet the scientists involved went on without punishment, free to continue their careers. I just wanted to say that we are approaching a break here, and if anybody would like to call in, join in, and ask a question, just dial 347-905-5581. That's a direct line to me, and I will always answer it, and I will always take your questions. And once again, if you have trouble listening, there is always a way to listen. Just go to freedomslips.com and Studio B Direct. And Revolution Radio, as I mentioned, has its own chat. Please be courteous to others. You can also go to TalkStream Live and search for the Allen Institute You can try the phone number listed, or you can stream it right from there. There is a live stream. The last way is go to free conference call for targeted Massachusetts. Dial in 515-604-9715. Enter the access code 708922. Thank you.
freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven, Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic ride.
What the heck is the Truth Jihad? Hey, I'm Kevin Barrett, host of Truth Jihad Radio. Federal prosecutors, Department of Homeland Security agents, and curious passersby often ask me, just what is this Truth Jihad thing anyway? Well, everybody knows what truth is, but jihad is a misunderstood term. Jihad means effort or struggle. The greater jihad is the struggle to be a better person, while the lesser jihad is the struggle to defend the community. Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, did say that the best jihad is a word of truth flung in the face of a tyrant. And that's what we do here at Truth Jihad Radio. Every Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific, right here on Revolution Radio.
Hey everyone, it's Barbara Jean Lindsay, the Cosmic Oracle. If you have questions about your past lives or future plans, need answers from the cosmos about your love life or career, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the planet, check out my show, The Cosmic Oracle, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain, as free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. Those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters, no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because freedom is slipping away.
Good evening. My name is Frank Allen with the Allen Institute, and you've been listening to Revolution Radio. Tonight we are discussing the United States and electromagnetic weapons. And we started last week right from the beginning, right with Project Paperclip in 1953. And we're somewhere, I would say, somewhere in the 90s tonight. But given the levels of ongoing EMF technology research today, and the recent retroactive approval of torture, retroactive, approved by the military. Somebody's trying to cover their butt, sounds like to me. Okay, Richard, I just noticed that you joined the call. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, and thank Revolution Radio for having us guys on to try to get the truth out there about all these things. It's amazing the more we bring out pieces and parts of all these things, they do connect, and the trails will lead to each other eventually. So those guys doing the stuff that were doing it in the 50s, they moved it all forward and never got punished even into the day today. Sooner or later, they're going to be tied in. So you guys hang in there, and best wishes to all. Got to come out sooner or later.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You can hang right in there if you like. We've got room for plenty. I just wanted to say that this is a live broadcast from Boston, Massachusetts on Revolution Radio. Talk to me directly. Get involved. Pick up the phone. It's easy. 347-905-5581 is a direct line to me. I will be the one picking it up. Well, sort of. But anyway, let me get back to our topic here. So, we've had the American public fall victim to this for quite some time, and no one has done anything about it. Everything is settled out of court. Everything is settled out of court with gag orders, so that the individuals don't have any way of speaking to us. Unclassified documents have been recalled and reclassified. In the 1980s, nuclear radiation. All the experts on humans became public knowledge, and Russian tests making use of the electromagnetic spectrum were exposed. So, countries around the world passed laws and signed treaties in response to the danger of weapons that could adversely affect human behavior or manipulate human cognition. The Russians, who are ahead right now in this game, at that time banned all EMF weapons as of 2001. These treaties have roots in the human radiation experiments of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. In effect, these treaties declared a basic tenet of human rights and cognitive liberties in the quest for global military superiority. The U.S. stepped up funding for the concept of the future warrior, beginning in the late 1990s. With the use of advanced nanotechnology. Okay, so we have to take a look at this. advanced nanotechnology in the 90s. That would be the late 90s. So what is nanotechnology like in the year 2021? We'll get to that. The idea was to streamline the military, improve soldier performance, control the fighting in real time, and avoid soldier mortality. Toward this end, the concept was to enhance the ability of soldiers to interface with computer systems by using their own brainwaves, as I mentioned earlier. The U.S. began to fund research into decoding the brain, as well as other neurological research. President George H.W. Bush declared the 90s the decade of the brain. At the same time, funding for computer-to-human interface poured into universities, such as the Massachusetts Institute for Technology and the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA. DARPA stepped up their research and development. In the universities, the field became cognitive science. And within DARPA, the term augmented cognition was born. While developments in brain research are touted for their amazing therapeutic advances in the medical field, they primarily serve the purposes of the U.S. military. And once again, they use the medical field. They use the medical field for the military. They use veterans in the medical field for the military. And some of these vets just want to walk again. They want to be able to live their lives again. But what are they doing? They are serving the purposes of the U.S. military, but not in the way that they would have hoped. Most Americans have little idea about the research concerning the capabilities of electromagnetism, directed acoustics, or computer-human interfacing, which they have done. They have a game out for children. The child puts on a headset and controls the game with his mind. I think it's terrible myself. The majority of Americans do not know what we are currently using these new concept weapons in Iraq and Afghanistan. Indiana University law professor David Fidler stated to The Economist, because these weapons are most likely to be used on civilians, it is not clear that using them is legal under the international rules governing armed conflict. If they are used in conjunction with conventional weapons, they could end up making war more deadly than ever. A peek into the U.S. arsenal of weapons is like a look into a science fiction film. DARPA and various military research labs provide a view of the current technology available to enhance U.S. soldiers in the field and manipulate the emotions and behaviors of the perceived enemy. As American sentiment toward the Iraq War spirals downward, along with the approval ratings of the U.S. President, domestic civil disobedience is likely to rise, as it has in many countries in response to U.S. foreign policy. Are new electromagnetic weapons in the possession of the government to be used on American citizens? The issue at hand is whether the research and technology currently being developed will benefit or harm us, and how much liberty we are willing to sacrifice for a possibly skewed sense of national security and protection. In September of 2006, Air Force Secretary Michael Wynne announced that crowd control weapons should be tested on Americans first. If we're not willing to use it here against our fellow citizens, then we should not be willing to use it in a wartime situation. Because, essentially, if I hit somebody with a non-lethal weapon and they claim that it injured them in a way that was not intended, I think that I would be vilified in the world press. Non-lethal weapons sound harmless in relation to guns and bombs. However, non-lethal weapons are not just tasers and annoying sounds, nor are they harmless. In fact, NLWs are such a concern that many countries have treaties demanding transparency. Right now, we have the Chilean government being totally against electromagnetic weapons and the use thereof. They started just about a year ago. Poland has also, although I haven't heard anything of Poland, they were totally against it, and I assume that they still are. And that assumption takes root in concrete. Beginning in the 90s, groups have formed to provide oversight of NLW research, including international committees, concerned scientists, and citizens groups, including the Federation of American Scientists and the Center for Cognitive Liberty and Ethics. The proliferation of NLWs have raised concern within the EU, Russia, and other countries as records of Cold War abuses come to light, and people come forward with complaints of illegal testing. The United States is full of such people. The UK is full of people being attacked in this way. Canada is full. Japan, China. I could go on. China is one of the worst against their citizens with mind control devices. If you are sent to a retraining camp there, you will never, ever come out. Our concern is more than a political issue and stretches beyond civil liberties into human rights as they relate to a person's cognitive liberties. We have crowd control, using the electromagnetic spectrum. It has provided the military with an expanse of weapons which are operational and in military and private use today. They use military millimeter waves, pulsed energy projectiles, and high-power magnetic weapons. The U.S. has deployed the Project Sheriff active denial weapon in Iraq. Raytheon outfitted Humvees with their Silent Guardian protection system, a device capable of heating the skin to 1/64th of an inch in depth, causing instant pain similar to a very intense third-degree sunburn, with the goal to facilitate dispersing a crowd. People who look directly into this need not worry about seeing. According to a report released by the Air Force on the human effects of this weapon, people with contact lenses and those wearing metal suffered greater effects. An imprint of a coin was discovered on the skin of a test subject, and death or severe heart problems may occur. Pulsed energy projectiles, or PEPs as they are called, are another form of weaponry that is used to paralyze a victim. Paralyze him with severe pain. According to New Scientists magazine, the expanding plasma affects nerve cells, but the long-term effects remain a public mystery. The Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Program reports that PEPs create a flash bang effect that startles and distracts the individual. However, the effects are much greater than just startling the individual. Time magazine article states that the PEP superheats the surface moisture around a target so rapidly that it literally explodes, producing a bright flash of light and a loud bang. The effect is like a stun grenade, but unlike a grenade, the PEP travels at nearly the speed of light and can take out a target with pinpoint accuracy as far away as 2 clicks. While the effects of these weapons appear to be short-term and topical in nature, there is evidence that electromagnetic weapons have effects on the brain, including sleep disruption and behavior changes. They can produce anxiety and fear or compliance in human beings. It is possible to use these weapons as a means of torture, yet without knowing exactly when, where, and how the weapons are used. We are left to speculate. An article by David Hambling in New Scientist magazine in March of 2005 was titled, "Maximum Pain is Aim of New U.S. Weapons." In 2006, Dr. Brian Martin, Associate Professor in Science, Technology and Society, University of Wollongong, Australia, co-authored a paper entitled "Looming Struggles over Technology for Border Control." This describes potential catastrophes that would lead to an extreme border protection plan in the event of a natural disaster or the rapid reduction of resources, or a major climatic change, such as drought. Rich countries will have a need to reinforce their borders against a massive influx of refugees. Okay? We've stopped building our southern border wall. Why? In Maoist China, cities were equipped with megaphones, bombarding the people with ongoing propaganda. The megaphones were in full vision of the people, yet there was no way to escape the sound. Today, technology exists that fills a similar purpose. Voice-to-skull directed acoustic devices are neural electromagnetic non-lethal weapons that can produce sounds within the skull of a human. A similar technology known as hypersonic sound is used in a similar fashion. According to its inventor, Elwood Norris of American Technology Corporation, the handheld speaker can focus sound waves directly at a person without anyone else hearing the sound. The technology is being tested by corporations such as McDonald's and Walmart to direct advertisements into a consumer's head. The long-range acoustical device, LRAD, is used by the military in situations such as crowd control, mass notification, and perimeter enforcement. For instance, an unruly mob may not hear a warning to disperse with traditional acoustic technology, or border enforcement agents may need to warn an approaching intruder to turn away or face bodily harm. The technology has advantages over lethal force, yet it also has the potential to inflict physical harm, emotional manipulation, and death. So are these non-lethal weapons? I believe they should stop using the term. They are quite lethal. Due to the psychological effects of these weapons, we have had many in our community, if you look especially over the years, commit suicide or just die. So these are not non-lethal weapons.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
A narco-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more...
Be quiet.
I order you to be quiet.
Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left.
Yes, I have. Look!
It's just a flesh wound. I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do? Bleed on me? I'm invincible.
You're a loony.
A black knight always triumphs.
Roundtable Live, Monday to Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us. Here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
This is Jim Fetzer inviting you to join me on The Raw Deal, Revolution Radio, Studio B, Tuesday and Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific, JFK, 9/11, Wellstone, Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, Charlottesville, Las Vegas, the latest on politics and foreign affairs from an unconventional point of view. Come join Revolution Radio Tuesday, Thursday, Studio B.
Hey everyone, it's Barbara Jean Lindsay, the Cosmic Oracle. If you have questions about your past lives or future plans, need answers from the cosmos about your love life or career, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the planet, check out my show, The Cosmic Oracle, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
I want to thank everybody for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the one place where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio! All right, let's show them what we got now.
Good evening. Once again, my name is Frank Allen with the Allen Institute. This is a live broadcast from Boston, Massachusetts on Revolution Radio. You can talk to me directly and ask a question and become part of the discussion at 347-905-5581. Now, we've just had a gentleman enter the conversation here. And would you introduce yourself, sir?
Oh, Frank, I don't know if you're talking to me. This is Karen.
Yes. Hi, Karen. Hi. How you doing?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Oh, very good, thank you.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Am I the one that you were thinking was calling?
Yeah. Do you have a question or a comment?
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm sorry I'm going to backtrack just a little bit, but I wanted to try to get some information. In my experience here where I am, I have contacted everyone in my city as far as the administration, from the city manager, the city council, the mayor, the police department, and even 2 different chiefs of the police department. And no one will talk to me about this. They won't even acknowledge that I've written. They simply don't respond. It took me a long time to figure out that was kind of a red flag. But you were discussing earlier about the classifications, and I'm trying to figure out, number one, I have several questions, but number one, I want to know, why is no one talking to me? Because there has to be a reason. And if they're not going to ever talk to me, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to deal with anything here, but I have written several city councils in an attempt to encourage them to write bills or resolutions like they did in California and Richmond. And I also wanted to see if those have been successful to your knowledge.
In Richmond, they have been successful. They treat the TIs quite differently in Richmond, California right now. And this is thanks to Amy Anderson, who put together, or was responsible for putting together, that bill. And it did pass, but it affects a limited area, and that is Richmond, I believe. I'm not sure whether it affects the county. I would have to really look into it further. But that is one bill that passed. We had a bill passed in Massachusetts concerning electromagnetic weapons, but I would have to say that it covers, from what I've seen, weapons that the police have, such as tasers, handheld weapons. But in the event that somebody is picked up with an electromagnetic weapon, it would follow suit and cover them as well. So, yes, and we have an anti-stalking law in Michigan, which was brought to our attention, I think, 3 years ago now, or thereabouts. But as far as where do you live exactly?
I don't want to say exactly where I live right now.
Just the state.
I don't mind telling you.
Okay. Well,
it's in Colorado.
Okay, Colorado. You have a number of people that you can contact in Colorado. One person comes to mind. Her name is Laura. She runs a conference call out of Colorado. She is...
Yeah, I actually have met her. I have met her.
Okay. Yes, and she's very social in that she'll reach out and she'll spend the time with you. And we also have another gal up there that is doing some work for the Institute in terms of speaking with people. And she is going to be on our outreach list pretty soon. And her name is Tracy.
Okay.
So,
okay.
What I can tell you is the people that you are talking to, okay, if you write a letter and it's anything longer than a paragraph, it's not going to be read. It's going to get chucked. If you send an email that's anything longer than a paragraph, it's going to get chucked. But you should try and team up with an NGO, which is a non-governmental organization, such as the Allen Institute or Targeted Massachusetts, Freedom for Targeted Individuals with Ella Free, CAHT, which is Neil Chevrier, down south. There are a number of different people that you can speak to. You can speak to Midge Mathis in Arizona. There are plenty of people to talk to who are already targets. When it comes to speaking to the government, you need to speak to them with an NGO. That's
okay.
Such as the United Nations. You can send 100 letters to the United Nations, but if you send a letter accompanied by an NGO's letterhead, it will get looked at.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. And one, I don't want to hold you up, but one other question. I know that there's, I guess, this thought that the people in the community are threatened, so they're not allowed to talk about it. So even the regular citizens won't discuss it, even though they know about it. And have you ever known anyone to actually be put in prison for just discussing this, such as the city council members? Are they going to be in trouble for trying to write a bill or a resolution?
No, you can write a bill, and that is your right. It is your constitutional right to seek out the help of your representatives in Congress. So you can present an idea for a bill or put a bill together in standard format that they use and present it to your congressional leader without fear. If you go to the office without an appointment and you go there and you become a little agitated, you might find yourself in trouble. But you have to treat everyone with respect, some deservedly, some not so. But when you compose a letter, make sure it's respectful to the person that you are sending it to. And as far as meeting, make an appointment, sit down, discuss your case. Make sure that you've taken notes and that you can pick up keywords and that will spike your memory so that you'll be able to discuss things. And try not to be too nervous. I know it's a good one, huh?
Yeah.
But, anytime.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You can call me at 508-857-8334, which is my personal cell phone, and I'll be more than happy to spend some time with you.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a nice night now.
You too, Frank.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Richard, are you still with us? Let me see. Yep, I see 1103. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
Well, I actually would like to say to the American people that are listening to look around themselves, because this experimentation is real. It's being done unconsensual to American people. Could be someone in your family, could be a neighbor, or someone that you just know, maybe having a hard time, not making much sense to you, or looking kind of rough from trying to get through a day. But look and listen and check on them and try to lift them up, because they may very well be targets. This is no longer a conspiracy anymore. It is, in fact, a reality. So you don't want to become the next victim of this experimentation. So check around you and keep your heart and mind open that this is going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. That's Richard from North Carolina. I am not going to give out his last name at his request. This is the time if you'd like to call in. The number is 347-905-5581. My name is Frank Allen, and I'd love to hear from you. You can ask me any question that you like, suggestions, anything. Or if you'd just like to hang out, that'll be just fine. Okay, to get back to where we were, I believe we were right in the middle of talking about LRAD. Now, a lot of people will say that LRAD is of no consequence, but it really is. I know Eleanor White will kick me in the head, but it says, according to the defense, the LRAD can produce a 150 decibel acoustic beam from 300 meters away. Okay, an acoustic beam, that's a very general description. So this beam could be 6 inches in diameter. It could be an inch in diameter. But the human threshold for pain is between 120 to 140 decibels. Now, in 2003, a New York Times article, Mr. Norris, the inventor, demonstrates his technology to the reporter. And at 1% of capacity, the reporter's eyes hurt, and hours later, still experienced a headache. Now, this is 1%. Can you imagine if they took this thing to 105%? They'd probably kill somebody with it. And this technology, people don't understand that it's being used, not this particular device, but similar devices. And they can take somebody so far into a feeling of apathy, paranoia, that they kill themselves. It's happened to people that I've spoken with, just as sane as I am, standing here right now. So it's a terrible, terrible device, and it must be stopped. This technology can inflict permanent damage and death, despite its classification, once again, as a non-lethal weapon. I think that classification should be re-evaluated. These are not non-lethal weapons. They are weapons of mass human destruction. And while this LRAD may be seen as a way to save lives in times of disaster or to avoid civilian casualties, the LRAD and similar directed energy acoustical weapons may be cause for concern to those who exercise their right to assemble and conduct peaceful demonstrations and protests, which we do. So you risk your life exercising your constitutional right to assembly. So, with that, I will say that it is time to reevaluate the term non-lethal weapon. The New York City Police used the LRAD at the Republican National Convention, and it was also used in Miami at a WTO free trade protest. Covering your ears will not protect a person. And given the long-range capabilities, fleeing from the beam may be even worse. It's getting you in the back of the head. It's been used on the Gaza Strip for the Jewish settlers there. It's been used everywhere. The AP or Associated Press reported that a device called the Scream was used in a 2005 protest against Palestinians who covered their ears and grabbed their heads, overcome by dizziness, nausea, and after the vehicle-mounted device began sending out bursts of audible but not loud sound at intervals of about 10 seconds, an AP photographer at the scene said that even after he covered his ears, he continued to hear the sound and the ringing in his head. So, we have devices out there that are way above the bullhorn and way above anything else in terms of crowd control. Most people, unlike some of the riots that we've seen today, will respond when they see a police car with uniformed police blocking an entrance. It's automatic. You respect the police. You don't expect the police to use something like this on you. We have applications of this device, including a therapeutic application with Alzheimer's, epilepsy, depression, and stroke victims. They are using a transcranial magnetic stimulation device. Bush's decade of the brain produced outstanding advances for those with spinal cord injuries as well, which always allows a paralyzed person to control a computer screen or a limb with a brain implant. There is also a new field in neurological research, augmented cognition. From universities to private business to the military, advances in neurotechnology can be used for amazing good. But like most weapons, they can be used for bad. Look at Hiroshima and look at a nuclear power plant. Those are two examples. As we have learned from the history of the Cold War technology, this has the capacity to heal, also has the capacity to harm. Of great concern is the research being conducted by DARPA, which is trying to revolutionize the way soldiers receive information. Now, this would be voice to skull, the way soldiers receive information. Next, the way they respond to orders. They may be given a stimulant as part of their message. Adapt to stress, calming, and perform while sleep deprived, adrenaline. These are all things that can be produced with these devices. TMS, or transcranial stimulation, is being developed for military purposes using electrical impulses at close proximity to the skull to enhance mood, to affect sleep patterns, and increase creativity. This technology is beginning to replace electroshock therapy. DARPA granted a contract to the Medical University of Southern Carolina, to research now to improve a soldier's performance. a soldier's reaction to stress may be less intense, or a 40-hour flight will allow for the soldier to remain awake without the side effects of sleep deprivation. Few, if any, understand the long-term effects. Sleep deprivation can take your life. Few, if any, understand the long effects of TMS. Given its relative infancy in the overall field of augmented cognition. So there, with the term augmented cognition, this is back when DARPA first started researching it. They're taking your regular cognitive abilities and augmenting them to the point where, is there a limit? Maybe not. But the human body has a limit, and the human brain has a limit. Does TMS produce unknown neurological effects 10, 20, 50 years down the road? To what extent is TMS being researched? TMS is part of the overall field of augmented cognition. In essence, augmented cognition allows a human to interact with a computer through a brain-to-computer interface. We'll do another chapter on BCIs maybe next time. The idea is to enhance a person's cognitive capabilities in the areas of memory, learning, attention, visualization, and decision-making. One application of augmented cognition allows a user to monitor a person's brain functions and send anticipatory commands to the person being monitored. For instance, a military command unit will be able to monitor a pilot in a cockpit. I've seen the patent. And based on the sensory output of the soldier, the base command can input messages directly into the pilot's brain to improve performance. DARPA describes this as a human-computer symbiosis, whereby this research will enable development of closed-loop human-computer technologies, where the state of the user is measured, analyzed, and automatically adapted to by the computer system. This is all going on now in the year 2021. They've had some time to perfect it. The increase in computer and human relations and the ability to manipulate and control a person's senses, memory, and neural output has wide implications. Under a nefarious rule, this could be deadly, and we have found it to be in the targeted community. Later on, we will go into the scientists who have worked on some of this material. And it's to the point where, okay, where's it going to end? They already have a brain. Thank you so much, folks. My name is Frank Allen.